Greetings, Booktube friends. This is Glenn at Glenn's Bookshelf. Thanks for coming back and welcome to another video. I am going to do the Booktube Newbie tag today, and so let's get started. I'll be looking at my notes here, so hope you don't mind as I look down. Question number one is why start this channel? That's a great question. I just have been inspired recently. I have been watching YouTube I've been watching Booktube for at least a year, maybe going on 2 years or so, I think. And I just have really enjoyed watching the different YouTubers, particularly those who have emphasized the classics. That's kind of what triggered my interest in Booktube. I happened to notice a few Booktubers who were kind of giving an introduction to the classics and wanting to encourage people to read more classics, and just sort of giving some reviews of some of the well-known classics, and encouraging readers to, particularly those who want to get started in the classics, to not be afraid to jump in and not be afraid of the accessibility of these books. And so that's kind of how I got started, and I've come to really enjoy some of the booktubers, or a lot of the booktubers that I watch, and really started noticing the interactions many of the booktubers have, and the different things that they will work on together, the different months that are given different book themes, and how different booktubers will co-host shows and other videos. And I'm just really looking forward to getting involved in the Booktube community, and we would really enjoy meeting other booktubers. As some booktubers have commented about themselves, they read a lot of books and are really interested in books, but they don't necessarily have many people in their lives that they share this interest with. So this is an opportunity for me to meet other people and to talk about the books that I like, and to get to know people and share our book interests. Number two, what can I bring to Booktube? Well, like everyone else, I'm unique. I'm unique like everyone else is, right? But I think I bring a unique reading portfolio in terms of the different types of books that I enjoy reading, the different authors. I read a mix of fiction and nonfiction, and I'll talk a bit more about that in one of the other questions. But a lot of the booktubers that I watch, it's sort of ironic that a lot of the booktubers I watch don't really talk about books that I read myself. It's been more of a case of booktubers that were talking about books that I kind of really hadn't read but wanted to. So that is what has attracted me to their channel in a way, but they also weren't necessarily talking about books that I read myself. So what I'm going to do is, I think, kind of combine the types of books and authors that many of the booktubers I watch talk about, and then talk about some of my own favorite authors and favorite books. And I'm sure that there are other booktubers who will cover a lot of the same ground, but I haven't come across them yet. So that's about as unique or interesting of a perspective that I will bring to YouTube or to Booktube. Number three, what am I most excited about? I am most excited about getting to know other booktubers, and eventually being able to participate in these different co-hosting events and buddy reads and anything that involves me in the Booktube community, really in any capacity, at any level. Number four, why do you love reading? Well, reading scratches a number of different itches for me. For a lot of my life, I have read for information, and I read for information both in school and even after school, after graduate school, and once I got into my professional career and was following current events. I read a lot of nonfiction, a lot of political books, a lot of current events where my main interest was in information and facts and knowing things and being able to prove things and being prepared to argue with people, I guess. And that interest of mine, that sort of attachment to books has not completely disappeared, but I'm much more interested. I'm getting back into reading fiction and any biographies or nonfictions in which the central theme is story. I love stories, and stories kind of help me to escape, but they also help me to understand myself better and to relate to the world better, and I just find it to be an enjoyable way to spend my time. Let's see, number 5, what book or series got me into reading? There are probably a few that I could discuss here. I know I read a lot as a child. I don't really know much of what I read as a child, except these books. I don't know if I'd be very interested to hear if any other booktubers besides me have these Peanut books, and in particular, this Peanuts series. The name of this book, actually, each of these books is 2 books. I'm going to flip this over, and you can see the title here. The title of this one is You've Had It, Charlie Brown, and the title of this one is As You Like It, Charlie Brown. And I have about 10 of these books, and each one of these is divided in half. So at the halfway point, the book flips over and you got to read the other half. But I read a lot of these as a kid. I still have these books. Most of them are in pretty beat up shape and not in good condition. And I'm really I have thought of trying to find some way of having them rebound. I don't quite know where to go or how to do that. Feel free to drop some ideas, some suggestions in the comments. But obviously this is the Peanuts series. These are comic slides written by the great Charles Schulz. And so I've been a big Peanuts fan ever since I was a kid. And so these were certainly among the earliest books that I read as I was looking at the copyright information. I was born in 1966. I just turned 59. And let's see, this book is actually dated 1969. And if I turn this over, this book is dated 1964. So these books were put together in the 1960s, around the time I was born or a little after. I imagine I started reading them probably in the early 70s when I was, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. But those were a big favorite of mine growing up. As I got into my teen years, I really got into Stephen King books, which is a little unusual. I grew up in a conservative religious household, so I don't know, I'm not sure how it is that I got sort of turned on to Stephen King, or like what my first Stephen King book was, but at some point maybe I must have known someone who had read one of his books, and I got into his books and really liked the horror spooky genre. And but those were some early influences for me. Let's see, number 6. When did I start reading? Well, again, I think I started reading as a child. I don't remember everything that I read as a child. Obviously, the Peanuts series and the comic books were pretty substantial. Were a pretty substantial part of my reading portfolio back then as a kid. Although I read lots of other things, I was a very early sports fan, so I read newspaper stories of my favorite baseball teams and so followed sports that way and reading the box scores when they came out in the newspaper and things like that. So I read lots of things as a kid, and I'm very thankful for that. Let's see what's next. Number 7. What would I ask other booktubers or some of my favorite booktubers? Well, I think there are a couple sets of questions, but on the personal side, I don't know if I have a specific question, but I would really love to just get to know some of these booktubers more and just kind of finding out what makes people tick, what makes them who they are, knowing more about them, maybe their backgrounds, and what brought them to the stage in life, the place in life, to where they are, on Booktube, talking about their favorite books with strangers and other people that they get to meet, and just kind of what makes them tick. I'm also interested. I'd also be interested to ask them some technical questions about how they do their videos and things like that. I'm just getting started, so I'm just doing very basic, very simple videos right now. I think eventually I will try and spice things up and develop a little bit of technical expertise and being able to do some video editing and things. I'm not really worried about that right now, but I would be interested in asking some of the more well-known and accomplished booktubers just how they do their videos and what sorts of applications and technologies and things that they use that are very easy for them. I'm also interested. I follow a number of booktubers who kind of specialize in different genres, and I was just happening to watch one of those videos today, and the genre, the type of books was Victorian literature, and it just occurred to me that I'd be interested to know, and I'm sure some booktubers have addressed this issue, but why is it? The question I would ask some of these booktubers, and it applies to other types of literature, why is it they think that some books from earlier eras in particular have lasted in popularity or have become popular in the next century? Why some books have sort of transcended the time period and have been popular, and while other books by the same author just have never really cracked through. I was thinking in particular of, let's see, someone like Thomas Hardy. We know, most of us are pretty familiar, we may have even read in school, Tess of the D'Urbervilles, and that's a book that is still very popular, I think, today, and is very well known. A lot of his other books are not so well known, although you can find most of them in a bookstore. But I just would be curious to asking the different booktubers why they think some books sort of maintain popularity or become popular as the decades or even century goes by, and other books by the same author just don't crack through and don't take on a more popular reputation, or just not as well known, or just not inclined, more likely to be taught in school, that sort of thing. Those kinds of questions. Let's see, number 8. What do I see as my main challenges? Well, I think I've already mentioned about technology. I am not really a high-tech person, and so this is really I don't do any video editing, but I would be interested in being able to do some things, but right now I am just using my laptop and using the camera app for that, and eventually I think I will probably soon go to my phone. That might be a little easier to use. I don't know, but I'll give a few things a try, but I imagine the technology will be the main thing. I think the other challenge will be I have time to do videos, but I just don't know if I really am going to be consistent enough about it. Even though I read frequently, just my attention span is just not very. I'm just not. I just don't do many things very consistently or in a very regular or disciplined way. So I think that could sort of hold me back in terms of attracting a viewership or a readership or anything like that. Number 9, where do I read? Another very good question. I tend to read mostly in bed, which has its drawbacks. The main drawback being that uh, I might very quickly just want to fall asleep and go to bed. And so I might not end up doing all that much reading that night. That is starting to change. I have been recently reading more from my Kindle kind of during the day. And I think I'll talk a little bit about that further down in the next question. But generally, I like to read in bed. I enjoy going to bed to read. And I may only read for a few minutes. I may read for an hour or more. But that's where I get some of my best reading in and where I most enjoy reading. Number 10, final question. What kind of books do I like? Well, I read fiction and nonfiction. I gravitate towards mystery books, so kind of more popular fiction. I read several Scott Turow books over the summer. I also read several books by Michael Connelly over the summer. There's another author by the name of John Connelly who is not as well known, but he writes mystery books. This author, John Connelly, is based in Ireland. He's from Ireland, but he actually writes books where the main character is from Maine of the United States. And this is a book series that he has written, and the character's name is Charlie Parker. And Charlie Parker was once a policeman and a detective. He becomes a private investigator, and he has a few characters, supporting cast that help him out. And I just enjoy this man's writing quite a bit. But generally, I gravitate towards mystery these days. The nonfiction that I read is mostly memoir, self-help, psychology, and spiritual matters, religion, theology, things of that nature. And I used to read a lot of histories, or certainly at least buy a lot of history books. I don't read as much history now. I have bought a few history books this summer. I bought the Mark Twain biography and am partly through that. And I did buy the biography of Henry V by Dan Jones. It's obviously a British author and a British subject. And I have enjoyed Dan Jones's histories of England, Great Britain for some time. And I'm also starting to reread The Guns of August. And I do a lot of rereading. And I listen to a fair amount of audiobooks. I probably should have mentioned this in terms of where do I read the most. I read a lot in the car by listening to audiobooks. I'm kind of a fussy audiobook person. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, but I tend to be a little fussy about the type of literature and the author and the types of books that I listen to. Generally, I only really like to listen to books that I either know the author fairly well or the story fairly well, or else it's a little bit hard to kind of keep up with the character and the stories. I am making an exception to that right at the moment. I am reading Thomas Hardy's The Woodlanders, a classic book from the Victorian era, reading that via Audible. in my car. It's a little hard to follow everything that's going on, but I really do like the narrator. His name is Samuel West. He is a British actor. And I thought that since I liked the narrator, it would be it would be a good idea, or at least a good option, a good try to get this book read by listening to it through Audible. And one booktuber, in talking about the classics, mentioned that if people were interested in the classics, that actually listening to them on audiobook was maybe a good idea, because at least partly because many of these classic books just they have very good narrators. They attract very good narrators, actors, playwright, people who act on stage, people whose voice is just very captivating. So that's sort of the tension, I think, in trying to listen to classic literature in general, and literature more broadly. It's finding a narrator that you're comfortable with, that you like, and so that's what I'm doing right now, and that's the end of these questions. And again, this is my Booktube Newbie video, and I look forward to your feedback and your comments and getting to know you. Thank you very much.